Here's the deal, guys. I'm a loud person. I normally don't use a mic, so if it's too loud, y'all just let me know.
And I have somebody coming that's visiting from another company, but they're not here yet.
Okay, great. Do you want me to wait a little bit then, or?
Like, we could just chat.
Yeah, I'll wait a smidgen. Yeah.
Does everyone know Jim Lee? There may be some in the room that are like, no, I don't know Jim Lee. And I have told everyone, any time that you are speaking, it doesn't even matter if it's about icebergs. We'll be like, please talk about that for 5 more hours, Jim, because
Maybe.
we love listening to you.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. We've known each other for a long time, right? Like how long?
Well, I got my license in 2002.
Okay.
And you were already licensed.
I got my license in 2005, so she beat me. She's the old one in the room, so yeah.
I don't know if I beat you in production, but I definitely beat you just in license. So I think one is more important than the other. And that's why you're here speaking.
You're my senior. That's why I work for you. So now we've known each other a long time, but I'd love to get to know a little bit about you guys too before I start teaching, just because it's helpful to know the audience. This is loud, isn't it? It's fine? Okay. Can you hit the volume down? So I'd love to hear a little bit about you guys and where you're at and where your business is at and what you hope to achieve out of today. So if you could just tell me your name, how long you've been in the business, and what you hope to get out of today, that'd be helpful. So let's start with you, since you were the brave one. You sat right up front. By the way, I grew up in France, so I speak like a European. And so in Europe, we kind of like spit as we talk. So I'm kidding. I'll make sure not to say the R's, the French way, so I won't. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Betsy Bella.
Okay.
And, I've been with a license
Okay.
since 2019, but I had to basically retire over 2021.
2021. Okay.
Because I didn't want to do it in COVID.
Sure.
2020, and I heard it was the best year, but whatever, regardless. So
Okay. Great. Good. Same as me. Yeah, you're coming. Okay. Okay. Sure. Wonderful. Thanks. Well, Betsy, so we have a lot in common. I'll get back to that. I'll get back to that when I start. But what about you? Maggie. Okay. You got it. Great. Wonderful. What were you doing before this? Great. Oh, great. Cool. Well, welcome. It was a small city. Perfect. It was a small city, just like Nashville went. See what happens. So, all right. So, what about you? Can you? Yes. Okay, got it. Okay, great. Sure. Wonderful. All right, great. Well, it's nice to meet you. Robin, I know you. Okay, what about you? Christopher, you said? Okay, got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. Sure. Oh, okay, good. Great. You heard me once, he came back, so that's okay. Not a fast learner. So what about you? Okay. Oh, cool. Great. Ah. real estate? April 1st. Okay. All right. Well, welcome. Welcome to the business. Perfect. All right. Great. And how about you? Okay. Gotcha. And so you like joined 19 months ago? Okay, great, wonderful. And then what did you say your name is? Is it Shell? Michelle. Okay, great, Michelle. Well, nice to meet y'all. Okay, so from what I'm hearing, almost everybody got in real estate after COVID. Is that correct? I mean, essentially. So all of you got in real estate after COVID. Let me tell you just a little bit about myself. So, name's Jim Lee. I've been in the business since I was, let's see, I bought my first house when I was 19. I got licensed when I was 25. I talked to my wife in the beginning in the business. I got married in 21 and talked to her in the beginning in the business when I was 21, and then followed her at 25. So about 2 years ago. I'm kidding. So so I've been in the business a while. So got licensed in 2005. Bought my first house in 1999. I was in college at the time, and I had somehow come into just a little bit of money, and I'm like, what do I do with it? You know, do I go have fun with it? I was like, oh, what about making a down payment on a house and then using my college friends as, you know, income to go ahead and support the payments and the taxes and whatnot. So I was able to do that, and you know, real estate was a lot cheaper back then, so it was easier. Did that, and then decided to buy my first foreclosure just a couple of years later. So I had so much fun basically buying that property, renovating it, the property renovation, managing, you know, the rentals and the income and the rent, managing the roommates and whatnot. And so I was like, this is a blast. I'm going to do it again. So I bought a foreclosure, and that was a gut job. Just gutted everything, rebuilt it from the ground up. I wanted to learn how to do it, so I got a job as basically a grunt worker in construction. My first job was $6 an hour. And then, you know, the next day, the guy was like, hey, I think I'm underpaying you. I'll pay you $6.50 an hour. And then, like 2 days later, he's like, hey, I think I'm still underpaying you. You're a hard worker. I'll pay you $7. And by the end of the week, I was already at $9 an hour after my first week in it, because he's like, you're a really hard worker for somebody fresh out of college. So I stayed in that a few years, learning basically how to, you know, do everything on a construction site. And while I was learning, I was going, you know, back to the foreclosure in the evenings, and then just using my own kind of hands to renovate it. It was a duplex, renovate it, and get one unit rented out. And then by that time, I'd made enough money off of both the rentals. I was able to hire out the renovation of the duplex on the other side. And from that moment forward, I was basically able to use, you know, the income that was being generated off my real estate investments. I never had to work in them again. So I kind of quickly leveraged myself out of a job and on the rentals, but I was working in construction. And I was, you know, 25 or, you know, 24, 23, and already I was like, I don't know, like, how long my body will be able to take this. And I just kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I was looking at some of the guys that were there, and they were old and beat up, you know what I mean? And it was hard on their bodies. I was like, I don't think this is a long-term, you know, career. And so I remember being, you know, high up on a job framing a house. It was a multi-million-dollar house and building, I don't know, it was 8,000 square feet, an Ipe deck, and hand screwing it all and hand drilling it all. And I saw this just fancy car drive up, and these people walk out, and it was a realtor. And I was like, man, that's interesting, you know. Let's consider that business. Because they were walking around the job site, you know, kind of prancing their way through and picking their way through everything. And I was up there sweating, you know, almost falling off a 3-story building. So I said, hey, I need to check that out. And so anyway, I got licensed in 2005. First year in the business, I focused on buyer representation. So I was a buyer rep, and I did 52 deals my first year in the business. And at 25, I looked like 16. I've always looked young for my age, and so, I mean, I would talk with people over the phone. Back then, like, the internet, like, it wasn't like a big thing. The MLS had really just come onto the internet, you know, back in, like, early 2000s. And a lot of people still didn't even have a website. You know, we were one of the only people with a website at that point in time. And so it was a lot of just phone. And so people, I would talk to them, they would be coming in, relocating buyers, and I would get on the phone with them, and they'd say, hey, you seem to be really competent, you seem to really know the area, we want to hire you. I'd fax them, we still fax back then, the buyer rep agreement, and they'd sign the buyer rep agreement before, coming into town, so I'd lock them in. Then they'd drive up, park their cars, and it never failed. I'd start, walking up to them, and the closer I got, the more you could kind of see them like looking around me and being like, when's his dad showing up? Like, no. And then I'd come and I'd shake their hand, and Jim Lee, they're like, where's Jim Lee Sr.? And I'm like, I am the Jim Lee. And they're like, oh no. Like, we just entrusted our home purchase and our whole relocation to a kid. But then I was quickly able to go ahead and regain their confidence because they're like, all right, he's still the knowledgeable guy that, he was when, we hired him on the phone. But they were locked in with the buyer rep agreement. And so anyway, from there on out, I majored in business in college, and I wanted to build a business. And so that's what my wife and I did, is we said, hey, let's approach this as a business. And back then, that was not a popular thing. Like, Keller Williams wasn't in town. Keller Williams wasn't talking about owning a business or running it. This was a novel idea. And agents in the office were like, nah, you're like an agent. Like, you're a salesperson. You're not a business owner. You work for the business owner. And I'm like, no, we're the business owner. We're going to run this like a business. And so that's really, so what I did is as I just fast forward to today. So fast forward to today. So where today is, and this is not, I'm not telling you guys this so you're like, oh, he's successful, but it's more, do I have legitimacy to share with you guys how I got there? And it's just to share that I think there's some legitimacy. And it's not because I'm super smart or super successful. I think there's been a lot of grace on my life and just a lot of blessing. And but there have been some strategies. And so I was thinking through my life. I was like, what are the strategies that I've used to get to where I am today? And then I want to share those with you guys. And so where I'm at today is essentially Andy runs, the real estate firm. Andy's doing really great. I'm selling all the resales, and he's now partnered with a new home builder that I introduced him to, and so he's launching a new home division as well within the company that we own. I was able to be an investor and founder in Keller Williams and help bring them to Chattanooga back in the day. I now own an engineering company, and I own a land development company. And so lots of rentals and different commercial buildings and whatnot. And I started out with nothing. And so again, I think what I did, anybody really could do it, but it's just about implementing the right strategies. Along the way, I've learned a lot. I've worked really hard, destroyed my marriage twice, rebuilt it twice. So it hasn't been like an easy ride. I almost lost the business and went bankrupt one time. And then I almost got foreclosed on millions of dollars of land development deals and real estate development deals through a bad business partnership, and I had to come in and kind of save the day. So there's been a lot of challenges as well. This has not been an easy ride, but the challenges I think have taught me a lot as well. So really strategy number one for me was run your business like a business. And so on day one, what we did is we incorporated on day one. So we went and we hired a tax. So if you're running a business, you get professional advice and consulting. So we hired a CPA and we hired an attorney. And that was the first investment we made. Is tell us how we should set this up. Tell us how we should think about tax savings. Tell us how we should think about retirement. We're going to be hiring employees. You're like, you're brand new. You haven't even sold a house. Don't matter. We're going to be hiring employees at some point. We want to make sure we set it up for benefits, that we set it up for employment benefits. How do we do this? We want to set up retirement. How do we protect ourselves from liability? So we talked with an attorney, drew up the paperwork, and incorporated on day one. And then on day one, we were running a budget. So we had a budget, we had a chart of accounts. There was no Keller Williams. They didn't create a chart of accounts for us. So we went ahead and hired a CPA who helped us create a chart of accounts, helped us, create a budget, create a P&L, create a balance sheet. So from day one, we were running our sales job like a business with a profit and loss statement, and we looked at that profit and loss statement every month. And so that, a big thing that came out of that just helped me in my life is that I paid myself a salary. So I never lived off of commission income. I would put commission income into the business bank account, and then I had our own personal bank account, and all the business revenue went to the business account, and then the business paid me a salary, and then we lived off that salary. And as the business bank account grew, we just let it grow. We just let our reserves grow. That was the business, and we reinvested in the business as opposed to paying ourselves and then going and buying too big of a house or going to buy, too nice of cars or boats or whatever. And so we lived really, really simply. So, and because we reinvested in the business. So I drove, an old Camry, beat up Camry forever. And people around me that were far less successful were driving far nicer cars. I still don't. I just drive a Jeep. I drive a Jeep Wrangler. It's nice. It's lifted. I just blew my tire on the way here. But, it's not like a fancy... So we've never been into fancy vehicles or fancy stuff. It's always been about reinvesting in the business and thinking like a business owner instead of like a consumer. And having that structured salary where... And then we had a board, right? So we had a board. So I couldn't just I couldn't just be like, hey, you know what? I need an extra $15,000. I'm just going to pay myself $15,000. No, it stayed in the business. The business built up its reserves. And guys, it gives you so much peace when you're living off of a rigid income, and then the business reserves are growing. And it was so exciting to see those reserves go from $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 to $50,000. To $100,000 to well more than that. And so it gives you so much confidence when you're going on a listing appointment and you know that you have 6 months of salary set aside in a reserve and you can pay yourself for 6 months whether you get that listing or not. And so I never had the desperation, that sometimes we have when we're in sales. And I think that helped me be a better salesperson because it helped me build trust with the people that I was talking with. And they knew that they could tell that I wasn't in it for myself. They could tell I was in it for them. And I really could walk in with the confidence that I don't need this, they need me. And so, but that all came from thinking like a business owner and running it like a business, and then reinvesting in the business instead of investing in my lifestyle. So the second strategy that I wanted to share with you guys is that if you are running and owning a business, then you have to be a high-level business executive. You have to be like one, think like one, act like one. And so have you guys ever heard of the be, do, have model, the have, do, be model? Have you heard of that? Okay, so I'll share that with you. So basically, there's 3 types of being in life, right? You can be a victim, you can be a worker, or you can be a winner. And this is all the be, do, have model. And so the victim approaches life as in the have. They start with the have, and then that motivates them to go to the do, and then they hope to get to the be after that. So this is the mindset of a victim. They say, when I have enough time, when I have enough money and support, then I'll do the things I've always wanted to do, and then I'll be happy and successful, right? So they start with, and then they end up becoming a victim because they never end up having, so they never end up doing, so they never end up being, if that makes sense. So that's the victim mentality. The worker mentality, that was more where I never, some of us are more prone to the victim or more prone to the worker. I was never as prone to the victim. I was more prone to the worker mentality. And so the worker mentality is do, have, be. This is why I burned my marriage twice. So the worker says, the more I do, the more I'll have. The more I'll have, the happier I'll be. That doesn't work. You can take it from me personally. You can never do enough to have enough to be enough because your identity isn't secure, and it's constantly founded on the outcome. And that's where I was at. So my identity wasn't secure. I wasn't confident, in who I was and how worthy and significant I was. And that was defined by what I had. And what I had was defined by what I did. So I started just working crazy long hours. And it wasn't the hours that made me successful. I could have been successful apart from that. What the hours did is they burned out all the relationships I cared about, and then they actually harmed my success because I'll tell you what, the last time you want to work or you feel confident or you feel like you have the energy to work is when, the people that you love are leaving you. I've dealt with that twice, and twice it's been, my fault. And that's the victim, not playing the victim. I did it to myself. What was the solution? So for me, the solution was be. It's the be, do, have. So that's the winner mentality. And those people say, it's not what do I need to have before I can start. It's not what work do I need to do, but it's who do I need to be. Who am I, really? And so now you can go a whole bunch of different ways on that. You can go spiritual, you can go emotional, you can go relational. Right now we're business class. So from a business perspective, I was looking at who do I need to be? Well, I need to be a business owner, and I need to be a high-level business owner. And that's who I am. And so I started to think of myself as a business owner. And so then the second investment I made wasn't in the business, it was in myself as a business owner. And so then it was, and guys, this is the thing about real estate, is when you're doing real estate, like you are doing law, you're doing negotiations, you're doing strategy, you're an economist, you're a marketing genius, you're a manager. I mean, like you're doing all of this high-level business stuff. And most of us here probably didn't go to Harvard, Stanford, Yale. We don't have MBAs. So we have to invest in ourselves. And so that's what I started to do, is I started to say, okay, if I am a high-level business owner, then what are the things that I need to know and in order to be that? And so I just started to pick up books, and I read, and I read, and I read, and I taught myself. I taught myself economics, and that's one of the reasons that when I was a pimply-faced teenager, people ended up hiring me on the phone and then being stuck with me based on the buyer rep, because I would talk like a really experienced and knowledgeable market economist, and they would say, man, this guy knows everything. People care about making a good investment. They care about making a wise choice, and so they trusted me and my knowledge because I was talking in terms of supply and demand and elasticity of demand and price and whatnot, and people were like, nobody talks like that in real estate. And so then I did the same stuff with marketing, and so I started talking in terms of, marketing language and target market, and I didn't use the typical real estate speak. So I didn't talk about, buyers, I talked about our target market, and I talked about all of the things related to, I talked about geofencing when geofencing came about. Nobody knew what geofencing was, and I was already talking about it. Why? Because I was studying marketing. And so I think that was strategy number 2, is essentially invest in yourself as a business owner, train yourself as a high-level business executive, and you have to change the way you think about yourself. You have to change the way you think about your business. So to put in perspective, if you've sold 10 houses, you sell 10 houses in a year. I'm sure your goals are to sell more than 10 houses in a year, but let's say your goal is 10 houses, right? That's the end all. You're going to sell 10 houses a year, and that's where you're going to end up, and no more than that. That's your goal. That's $400,000 times 10 houses. That's $4 million a year. So you just built a $4 million a year business. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And so I started to do the math and say, like, okay, well, I want to sell, like 200 houses. So, 200 houses. Man, that's a big business, right? I don't know many business owners that are generating that much revenue into the market. I mean, you're moving. Your business is moving 4 million or 20 million or 50. I mean, it's moving a lot of value in the market. That's a big business. So, so I started to think like that. And so I encourage you guys, I already was geared towards kind of economics. So I already kind of understood market. I'd taken finance in college. So I felt like that was already a strength. So I just decided to leverage my biggest strength first. I wasn't a natural negotiator, but I was natural economist. So that's the thing that I started to perfect first. And so I knew the market better than anybody. I could talk about neighborhoods and their appreciation rates. I could talk about their decline. I could talk about the rejection rate. I could talk about the absorption rate. I could talk about all kinds of stuff. And people were just blown away because I decided to major in my strength. So if numbers and finance is not your strength, don't major in that. But look at this. So marketing, business law, human psychology, negotiations. What's a natural strength that you have? Do you get people? Do you get negotiations? Do you get marketing? Take that strength and study the best in class. Like the people that are going to Harvard, what are they studying? Study that stuff. And so they talk like somebody who graduated with a marketing degree from Harvard. Talk like somebody who graduated with a psychology degree from Yale. Like that's what you need to be doing. And then using that vocabulary and get rid of the vocabulary of real estate and start talking about the vocabulary of that industry and that expertise and that discipline. Because people don't want to hire a realtor. They really don't. They want to hire an expert consultant that's going to guide them through their decisions and through this process. And we just happen to call that realtors. So the number 3 strategy, so run it like a business, be a business executive. The third strategy is what does a high value business executive do, right? So now it's the be, the do. And so what do you do as a high value business executive? You've got to value your services at the highest level. You only offer your services in exchange for fair compensation, right? Because that's what a high value business executive does. They don't work for free. Realtors work for free. They're the only people in the business world that I know of that work for free. Lawyers, they charge a retainer up front, right? Doctors, they get paid right then and right there. Or they get your medical insurance and then they know that they can get paid. Psychologists, you go to therapy, you're paying there. Marketing firms, they charge you 50% deposit. It's only realtors that work for free and that hope people are suckers enough to pay you when the time comes. So the fact of the matter is that from day one, because I was thinking like a business executive and I had studied business law, because I've read literally 6 textbooks on business law. Like, I practice what I preach. So I was like, I got to know law. So I read 6 textbooks on it and taught myself law. And I said, you know what? Seems like contracts are important. What are the contracts in real estate I need to be aware of? Buyer rep agreements. Nobody was getting buyer rep agreements signed. They were like, oh, you're a buyer. Come, let's go drive around together and let's go shop for homes. Oh, you're a seller? Okay, great. Let me talk with you. Let me just lay it all out there, tell you what you should price it at. I'll give you staging advice and staging tips. You know, I'll talk to you all about the market. I'll tell you exactly where you need to be positioned. Please, will you hire me and sign a contract with me after you've already provided all your services? And so I just said, you know what? That's crazy. Like, no other business does that. I'm not going to do that. And so from day one, the reason I did 52 sales with home buyers in the first year is because I got every single one of them to sign a buyer rep. And boy, am I glad, because I am telling you, like, those people that hired me on the phone and then saw how incompetent and young I looked, like, they would have left me on the spot and gone and hired Charlotte Mabry. But they were stuck. They'd signed a business contract with me, and so they were stuck. And then they were happy. But always establish and sign a clear contract first. Never value yourself enough. Know that you're a business executive, that you always contract for payment, unless you're allowing them to take you for a test drive. And that is a conversation that I would have with buyers. So I would always ask for the signature. And if they said no, I would say, what's the hesitation? You know, can you talk to me about that? It seems like we connected well. You guys expressed it. You feel a high level of trust. You know, my competence my ability to help you get where you need to be. Tell me what the hesitation is. Well, this is just a big deal for us. We just want to make sure we're making the right decision, you know. And we're just not quite sure. I say, no problem. I completely get it. Okay, how about this? You guys take me on a test run, right? You don't buy a car without a test drive. Let's go on a test run. We'll go to 3 houses together. If I don't blow you away with those walkthroughs and what I know about the markets and those things, don't hire me. If I do blow you away, you're signing that contract and you're working with me. How's that sound? You know, sounds great. So we'd go to those 3 houses. I would research everything to death, but I did this. It didn't matter. This is what killed me, because I didn't have boundaries back in the day. So I was showing 40, 50, 60 homes to buyers. So when I said 52 houses, nobody taught me. Like, there was no Keller Williams to teach me about, like, you know, the narrowing that focus. And so I showed so many houses. But the flip side of that is I got to know the market so well, because I was in all this inventory. And so whether you have buyers or not, it's important to go study the inventory, know it, be able to speak about it in a knowledgeable manner. And then what I would do is, before, you know, a showing would happen, this is before like Google Maps and like before like phones and all that. And I am so challenged from a map. Like, I map my way to work and back to house like every day. I don't know what it is. Like, I just rely on the map. I can't find my way around. And so I was screwed, you know, back in real estate when I was like, I moved over here from France, missionary kid, living in Chattanooga, you know, and no Google Maps. And so what I would do is I would get out a big map like the night before, and I'd put all the, you know, 20 some odd houses we were seeing that day, because I was nuts. And I would put them all, like, you know, with these little markers on it. And then I would strategize, like, okay, these 3 I can hit here, and then these 5 I need to, and I would map it all out. And then you did have Yahoo Maps, but you couldn't take it. It wasn't mobile with you. So then I'd go into Yahoo Maps and I'd map out like the 20 things in succession, and then I'd print out the directions. But then I would go ahead and write it in handwriting because I didn't want people to know I was looking at directions, that I didn't know the area. So I had these like cheat notes here where I'm driving, trying to talk with them and carry on a conversation and trying to cheat and look at my notes. And I cannot tell you how many like handles like people pulled because I was looking at my directions, trying to carry on a conversation with somebody twice my age and far more mature than me, and trying to not get lost. And I would run stop signs, run red lights. I mean, it was not anyway. But they still worked with me and still bought houses for me, and I still sold 52 homes. But I did that because I had the buyer rep plan. And so I would practice what I preach, and so not just becoming an expert in economics, I became an expert in the houses that they wanted to see that day. And so what I would do is I would go into tax records. I would see what the houses had sold for, how long ago they sold, how long the people had owned them, if it looked like renovations had been done to the house, what had been done. I'd pull the old seller property disclosures from before, and I'd have all that ready so I could reference it when I walked in the house. And I was like, you know what? It's interesting because the last property disclosure in this household said the HVAC units were like 22 years old. Looks like they put in some brand new units. So one of the investments these people have made is they put in some new units, they put in a new, so I was able to speak eloquently to that, or speak to the fact that it hadn't been done, you know? And so just that knowledge and what it had sold for, I'd pull what mortgages were on the property, so I'd be able to let them know how negotiable I thought the sellers would be. And so it was just, they didn't have that from anybody. So because I was so young looking, I had to overcome that with so much more knowledge and expertise than anybody else around me needed, because they were not going to hire me for any other reason. So I had to be like 3 times better than any of my peers to get them to hire me. But I'm grateful for that because it gave me a competitive edge that I've never lost to this day. And so I would just encourage you guys, if that's the strategy I used, I would encourage you guys to use that strategy. Situations where where this has really, really helped me. So buyer reps, I told you guys I got those signed. Listings. So listings, people in this business will go ahead and they'll work with somebody that's, say, renovating their home. Say you'll call, me and say, hey, I'm getting my home, ready for the market. I want to sell it, but it's not ready yet. So then I'll go to your house, typically if I'm a typical realtor. I'll go to your house, we'll talk, I'll offer some staging advice, I'll offer some pricing advice, and then we'll shake hands, and then I'll see you in 4 months or whatever after you finish getting your property ready. And guess what? As soon as she starts working on her house, and as soon as she starts packing the boxes, the staging, and getting people out there, neighbors are going to be asking what's going on. She's going to be talking about it on Facebook or wherever. She's going to be talking about it at work. People are going to be aware of the fact that Megan's selling her house, and guess what? In a low inventory market, somebody's going to come up with an offer, buy the house from her before she even goes to market, and I'm going to get completely cut out of the deal. But she's going to use the staging advice that I gave her. She's going to use the pricing advice that I gave her. She's going to use the market advice that I gave her. So I just worked for free, helped her sell her house, got nothing for it. And so I just didn't do that. I refused to do that. So I would go to the listing presentation. I would present my services, my track record, and what I offered. And then I would say, I would basically ask for the business and ask them to hire me. I would ask them how they felt. They felt like I was the one that could go ahead and give them the price and sale that they were hoping for, why they thought that and believed that. If they had any hesitation, why not? And then we would deal with that hesitation. Say, now how do you feel about it? Why do you feel that? So I get them to commit in words. Great. So you guys ready to do business together? Yes, we are, or no, we're not. Oh, great. What's the holdup? Help me understand, that, whatever. And so people would just sign the deal. And sometimes they'd ask, well, shouldn't we sign afterwards? I was like, well, no, because what we do is you go ahead and sign the agreement first, and then I get to work for you. Because until we sign that agreement, I'm out for myself. The agreement, that's what the law says. The law says that until this agreement is signed, we're salespeople, and we're not your fiduciaries. As soon as this is signed, I can get to work on behalf, representing you, working on behalf of your interests. And until that happens, none of this happens. So I'm not going to offer anything, from staging or pricing or marketing or selling, because the law says that what I'm saying you can't trust it until this is done. And so this protects you. This helps you know where I'm coming from. This tells you that what I'm telling you is in your best interest. And so I would always just get that signed up front. And I would let people know ahead of time. Like if you let people know ahead of time, they know what to expect. So when I would do the pre-qual conversation, I would always do a pre-qualifying conversation with sellers, and then I would let them know what was going to happen. We're going to walk through your house together. Then I'm going to go ahead and show you what we offer. If it blows you away like I think it will, we'll go ahead and sign the paperwork at that point in time. You guys hire me to represent you and get your home sold. From there, we'll go ahead and get into pricing advice, staging advice, marketing advice, tailored to your home, and we'll launch the strategies for all of those things in preparation for your home getting ready for the market. Oh, well, wouldn't it like you go over price, first, or no, because that's actually one of the services that I offer once you're hired. We can talk some general advice, but those are strategies that I need to put into place once we've already decided to work together. If you decide not to work together, then you need to hire somebody else to give you your pricing advice, And I would even let people know, they're like, well, I really want to hear, a price from you before I hire you. I was like, the price that I tell you, that anybody tells you, is completely independent from who you hire. Because I can have 100 people lined up right now that you would never hire because you would know that they would not be able to get it done, but they would tell you they could sell your house for twice as much as you and I both know it could. So that has nothing to do with anything. Who do you believe, whatever price you pick, who do you believe is best equipped to get you the price and the value that you want out of this home? And so we would have this conversation. So I would just not move till we got that signature, and I would not give them the price. The minute you give them the price, they're going to say like, okay, I got from you what I want to know, and then they're going to go hire or interview 5 other realtors, and whoever tells them the best price is who they're going to hire. So during the pre-qual script is when I would let them know that this is the method and the process we're going to follow. So 8 times out of 10 when you tell someone that, and you come at it then confidently during the meeting, they just follow your lead. And you're like, okay, so the next step is this. Okay, great. The next step is this. Okay, great. And then again, at the meeting at the house, I would remind them. I would say, okay, great. What are your goals for today's meeting? Okay, well, here are my goals for today's meeting. We're going to go through that process that I told you, and we'll take each natural step. And then if that all goes well, this is where we'll end up. How does that sound to you? That's their chance, to push back. First on the phone call, how does that sound to you? They don't push back, or they do then. I handle it then. How does that sound to you at that meeting? Then they just follow the process and they sign the document. And so I was able to work with investors, builders, people getting their house ready, people packing, staging, and I never lost a deal because they had signed the contract 3 months, 6 months, 8 months earlier. And I would get people calling me and saying, hey, and I trained them on this. Once they signed it, I said, hey, listen, what's going to happen is as you start getting your house ready, people are going to ask you if they can see it, if they can come and walk through it. Don't let them. We do not want to let them see the house and get a bad first impression. What you want to do is build up a huge pool of demand for your house and launch it all at once. It's like an auction-like atmosphere. If you let people trickle into your house over time and kind of see it in various stages of, readiness, they're going to just make their decision and move on, make their decision, move on, and you're going to hit the market and have 1 or 2 showings. What we're going to do is we're going to get all that interest. We're going to build it up into a prospect list, just like how the big guys do it when they're selling big home communities. They do not let people in ahead of time. They do a grand opening. We're doing a grand opening on your house. Same thing, like Apple does it the same way. I mean, everything, every new release, video games, whatever, there's a grand opening, right? There's nobody gets it. There's talk about it, but nobody gets to really play around with it or use it until, boom, the grand opening, and then everybody hits it. And then all the press and all the articles about how people are lining up the doors to get it. And so that's the type of kind of auction-like frenzy we wanted to create for our listings, where the minute the property was available for showings, it was showing after showing after showing after showing. And so the way that we did that, and we would tell them that strategy, and we would get their buy-in on that strategy, and then we would help them understand why they didn't want to let their best friend see it, or their neighbor see it, or their worker see it, and why they wanted to refer that person to me so we could build up that prospect list. And then when we hit the market, we wouldn't allow showings for the first several days. So we would hit the market on like a Tuesday. No showings on Tuesday, no showings on Wednesday, no showings on Thursday. First showings allowable on Friday starting at 4 p.m. And what does that do? Friday, Saturday, Sunday are nuts, right? But then we don't take offers until Monday after 5 p.m. Why? Because it gives an opportunity to build up that frenzy. So again, like I would walk in and you have to have a strategy that people say, whoa, they know what they're doing. Like they have a method, they have a process, they have a strategy, and they're committed to it. And what happens then is they get on your agenda rather than you getting on their agenda. So you have to have the strongest and most powerful agenda. You have to be convinced of it, not in a mean way, but in a just I know what's best. Okay, I know what works. And so that's how that would work for me on the sellers and listings, and why we get those contracts signed ahead of time. Guys, that held me in good stead. Once I learned that, to never work without a contract, right? Never work without a contract. That actually helped me with operating agreements. And so then in operating agreements, when I started to get into funding land deals, or I was coming in as an investor to fund a land deal, I had the strategy of saying, hey, buyers, after having worked with 50 buyers in my first year, I realized what a burnout rate that was, and I realized listings were a lot more leverageable. And I also realized that every time I was successful at a listing, I had just fired myself, right? I was unemployed again. So every time I did all the hard work of working with you, getting you to the finish line, getting you to sign, getting you to trust me, like me, follow me, saying the same thing over again to you that I've said to 1,000 people before you, and then succeed, get this deal signed, and guess what? I'm now out of a job, right? I have no listing left. I have no sign out there, getting more buyers. I have no sign out there letting the neighbors know that I'm in the real estate business. Like, I've got to start it all over from scratch. And so I realized, like, hey, I've got to find a duplicatable way of doing this. I'll talk to you guys about that in a little bit. But one of the ways that I would do that is then get operating agreements and get tied into the operating agreement that I was the listing agent on anything that I was invested in. So anytime I would do investments, and I would place little investments in things, but I would tie myself as a listing agent to that. So if it was 5 homes or 10 homes or 200 homes, I was written into the legal contract that I had to be the listing agent for anything that got built, developed, sold, renovated, or whatever on that land. And sometimes that was a really small investment that got me that. So that was just kind of how I leveraged that mentality up of getting a buy rep signed, to getting a listing rep signed, to getting operating agreements signed. And then it's held me in good stead as an employer because, we get independent contract agreements signed or employment agreements signed, and they're completely fleshed out. They're drawn up by attorneys. Everything's clear and concise. Nobody gets hired without a firm contract. So again, that's thinking like a business owner. And you'd be surprised how many people have people working without a signed employment agreement or signed independent contractor agreement. And that's not running a business or thinking like a business owner. So strategy number 4 is to have what a high-level business executive has. So we talked about be, do, have, right? Be, do, have. So strategy 4 is have what a high-level business executive has. You've got to invest in the assets that give your business the value that exists outside of you. You don't have a business if it's just valuable because of you. You have a business if it has assets that are valuable apart from you. And so the 4 assets that I think of, there are others. You can think of real estate as an asset, but the 4 that I think of in my business that I want to have value outside of me is the brand, the systems, the technology, and the people. The brand, the systems, the technology, and the people. These things allow you to work smarter and not harder because you get to leverage them. So from a branding perspective, I just want to give you guys a couple so now, what it means to brand something looks completely different than what it looked like to brand it when I had no money and I was just starting out, right? And so, but still, one of the first things we did was hire a marketing person to create a logo, to create a slogan for us. We hired a copywriter to write some copy about us and our business, to interview us, and to write up a story. So we had that story and that brand and an idea then of what we were pushing and what we were promoting and who we were. And so that was really on day 1 that we did that. And then we said, okay, now that we've invested in this brand and now that we have it, how do we push it out there? How do we promote it on a shoestring budget because we don't have a lot of money? And so what we would do is every time I got a listing, I would put up 8 directionals with my brand in my name. And so I'd go to all these different corner streets around the neighborhood and put up 8 directionals. And then it looked like I was owning the neighborhood. And I guarantee you, I had so many conversations with people where I was in a neighborhood and I had 2 listings. And they're like, dude, you have taken over this neighborhood. No, I haven't. They just drive through it and they see directional after directional after directional. But guess who's getting the call when they think of selling? Because your success in real estate is directly proportional to the number of people who, when they think about real estate, they think about you. And so I took that to heart and said, okay, how do we use our brand and how do we freely kind of get our brand or promote our brand out there so that people, when they think of real estate, think disproportionately about us than they really ought to. And that's just leveraging a brand to get more out of it than really you ought to. So we did buyer sold signs. So every time I sold a buyer, we had sold signs. So it was welcome so-and-so to your neighborhood, and it had my logo and name on it. So, and then guess what? There were 8 directionals for that one too. So the thing is got directional. So like, for example, you had a listing, right? I would sell it. You would take down your for sale sign after a bit. I'd go put up my buyer sold sign. And so then everybody they think, they see another sign out there and another 8 directional. So I could be in a neighborhood where I have 2 listings and 2 other realtors that I sold their houses. I'd have 4 signs in the yard times 8 directionals. I own the neighborhood. Okay. But it looks like that, right? It looks like that. So that was leveraging the brand. Systems and models. Those are other things that a business has that it has value. We're in conversations right now with someone, and he was wanting to, do something that would keep the systems in another business. And I said, nope. The systems and models have to live within this business. Because we want this business, that was actually him just calling right there. We want this business to have value. And it's the systems and the models that give it value. And so one of the, some of the systems and models that I used and I started to create from a very early time, which again, none of this existed. Like we had to keep this stuff from scratch. You guys have a leg up in the sense that Keller Williams has created these systems. But here's the trick, is when you work your butt off, to create a system, and you stay up several nights in a row. Like I remember dedicating vacations to, I didn't vacation that vacation. I built an expired listing program. That's what I did during that vacation because I was running late. I set a deadline for the expired listing program. And by golly, I couldn't go to the beach because I hadn't finished my expired listing program. Now, again, that was probably that worker mindset that also led to the burned marriage, So I learned from that. So I'm not saying to do that, but I am saying when you create something and you invest your sweat, blood, and tears in it, then you use it and you know it. The problem is when you haven't created a system, they're just all out there. You don't necessarily value them because you haven't bled for it. You don't know it in and out because you didn't create it from the ground up. And so it actually requires you to do extra work of going in there and studying it and learning it and getting dirty and messy with the system and making it your own. But the systems that I used was a listing marketing plan, a listing servicing plan, a past client follow-up plan, an expireds plan, and a geo-farming plan. So, and I didn't get all those at once. But, I just said, okay, I've got to have a plan for how to market these listings and what to do with these listings. And so I had like a week-by-week thing that would happen. And so it would be like, for example, week 1, it gets listed, put an open house, put an open house ad in the paper, put the directional signs up for the open house, get the balloons out, and then it would be a series of like price changes that I would just do and have agreements up front with the seller that I would do them, where I'd raise the price $200 or drop the price $200 just to get it resent out to the system. Week 2, I would swap out the front photo for a different front photo. Week 4, I would swap out the front photo for a new front photo. Why? Because it gets stale, right? So I don't know if you've ever driven up Lookout Mountain, before. And when you drive up Lookout Mountain for the first time and you look at the freaking view and the drop off, you're like just stunned and in awe and like, I think I'm gonna die, and you just can't help but look at the view. And then once you've done it 26 times, like you just don't even notice it anymore. It's just part of the, background noise. And so when something's new and fresh, it grabs your attention. And so when that listing is hot and new and fresh, it grabs your attention. But then it becomes stale quickly. So how do you keep it new and fresh? You switch up the price, you switch up the front photo, and you keep it moving back out there because it resends it out there every so often. So those are some things we would do. We would also have like a reverse prospecting plan. So I would go on to it's different now. I don't even know what system you guys use, but back in the day it was showings.com, and you could go on there and you could see which realtors had shown houses in that price point. And so I would get that list, and then I would call those realtors and say, hey, you've shown a house in this general area, in this price point in the past month. We have, has that buyer bought yet? Because we have a listing that's coming to market. So I would tell the realtor about that, right? And then I did that on showings.com, on the CSS, like the showing. Yeah, is that, what do you guys use now? Broker Bay. So I'm assuming, I don't know if it has that same functionality. It does not. Okay. Now, reverse prospecting, you can still do that though, right, on the MLS. So reverse prospecting, you can go in there and you can see which agents have buyers. But a lot of agents get lazy and they'll just like send an email to everybody and then that gets lost in spam. Call them. Call them. Like, hey, I just want to let you know, you've got a prospect, this price point, we've got a listing. It's hitting the market in 2 weeks. I wanted you to know about it so you can get your buyers in there early. You know, I know there's a lot of inventory low. I think your buyers will appreciate it if they can get, first dibs on the first weekend that it hits. So so you just leverage other people and leverage those systems to do that. So that was I had a listing marketing plan that would do those things. Had a after sale follow-up plan where there was a series of touches, and those touches just built goodwill, guys, and it got us so many referrals. And the geo farming was my favorite one, and that is because again, these systems allow you to work smarter. So when you create a farm, it's the gift that kind of keeps on giving. Because where do you live? Actually, no. Okay. Near Harry's Walk, near Springers. Yeah. Okay. So if I sell her house in Ashley Mills, and I'm not farming that area, again, I just fired myself and lost myself a job, right? Now, if I put her into my database and I have a good follow-up plan with her, and I have a good way of asking her for referrals and letting her know on the front end, even before she hires me, that remember, it's all about expectation setting, that I care above all else to deliver world-class service. And the way that I know that I deliver world-class service is how excited and thrilled she is to send her families and friends to me after I served her. And if she's not just chomping at the bit to send me referrals, then that means that I haven't delivered world-class service. And so I'm going to ask you after, we work together, how you feel about it. And I'm going to rate myself highly or lowly depending on how excited and confident that you are to send me those referrals. And I hope. And also I'll keep in touch throughout the process. Hey, I told you I wanted to offer world-class service. How do you feel like this is going? What could I be doing differently? So you're asking for feedback. The best businesses, they do feedback and surveys and they get customer service responses so they know midstream how they can still win, how they can still deliver that service if it's not going well. Why do we wait till the end when it's all said and done and now you either won it or lost it and you can't change it? So the midstream check-in, and that's part of the listing servicing plan or the buyer servicing plan. If you put it into your database, it spits out the action plan. You don't have to recreate it every single time. And you're like, oh, I signed a buyer up with this person on such and such a date. 2 weeks into the buyer up, it says to check in and do the customer service check-in. That's where I would ask, how are we doing? We promised you this. How are we doing on it? So that's part of the servicing plan. Does that make sense? So it not only tells them that you're a business and that you're a business executive and that you're very serious about this and you're very serious about them, it sets them up to just be excited to send you referrals. I got so many referrals because of doing it that way. And it was just leveraging those systems. So the geo farming, what it does is if I'm farming Ashley Mills, and I'm not saying you are, but if I'm farming Ashley Mills and I get an open house in there or I get a listing in there and I sell it, well, guess what? That can generate more success because it creates more and more goodwill and more competence and more brand recognition in that neighborhood. So you're leveraging brand with that system. So you're leveraging those two systems and models to go ahead so that your successes create more successes. And so I love geo farming. So if you guys can pick a neighborhood and farm it and commit to it, that is the number one strategy that I use to get business outside of the database. It was database first and geo farming second, and it was one neighborhood. That was it. And that got us a ton of business. Technology, database. This is your business. Again, your success, like I said, your success in real estate is directly proportional to the number of people when you think about real estate, you think about you. That's your database. It's that number of people. That's all it is. And your servicing of that database is training them to think of you when they think of real estate. So you put them in there because you want them to think of you and you're starting to earn their right, and then you remain in contact with them because you're training them to think of you. And when you do that, you've just built a business. And until you've done it, don't kid yourself, you don't have a business. And so it's so critical to have a database, to be in it every single day, and to treat that like everything that has value, because it's the only thing. You lose your database, you don't have a business. You lose your phone with the numbers, and do not think your phone is a database. Like, it's not a database, okay? So, when I started, we didn't even have these. So I didn't run the risk of being deceived into thinking that this was a database. It is not a database. A database has follow-up plans. It has notes about their birthdays, about their kids, about what houses they bought, when you sold them, so that then when you pull it up, you're reminded of their favorite things, or you're reminded that they love this soccer team, or you know what I mean? And so it gives you the insight into how to win with them and how to stay in a relationship with them. Your phone can't do that. People. We're talking about the having, right? The things that a business executive has. So technology systems, right? Database. We talked about having models, and now having brand, now people. So people is the biggest thing. You've got to master the art of recruit, select, train, lead, motivate. So that is outside of, first it was database, then it was farming, then for me it was mastering RSPLM. Those are kind of the three things that have kind of catapulted my business to the next level each time. And mastering the art of RSPLM was mastering the art of hiring and bringing the best, because you can bring in somebody so much better than you, so much more world-class than you. And that's what I do every single time. Like, I bring in somebody so much more world-class than I am at whatever it is that they're doing, that it just catapults the business to the next level. And how do I do that? One is I hire to my weakness. So generally I'm not hiring myself unless I'm trying to replace myself. I'm hiring somebody who my weaknesses. I don't need to hire an economist. Like, I kind of have that, unless I want to go to the next level. But by golly, I pretty much have to hire everything else to get it done at a world-class level, because I'm not world-class in it. So I can find and attract world-class people in that if I invest in them and get out of their way. And so that's the thing, is you've got to hire the best, you've got to invest the best in them, you've got to give them the best, and then you have to get out of their way. And by giving them the best, here's what I mean. It's like you bleed for this. So when I hired a buyer's agent, I stopped working with buyers. Period, end of story. Didn't matter if our average sales price at the time was $160,000 and a $700,000 buyer came to the table that was just a slam dunk, wanted to see one property. I did not work with that buyer. I handed it straight off to my agent, and then my business made the profit that they made based on that buyer split with the buyer's agent. I never held on to my clients once I hired someone to give them the job of working with their clients. My mom, my sister, when they came and they bought houses, they worked with my agents. They didn't work with me. Even if it was just, hey, Jim, you just want to write an offer on this property. Make them do a 1-hour contract, whatever negotiation, make $15,000. Nope, I'm splitting that with my buyer rep. But that's how I was able to attract the best and keep the best, because I followed the model. And you have to value the model and follow the model more than they do. You can't expect them to follow the model and follow the systems if you aren't willing to bleed for the model and bleed for the system itself. So you've got to be the most disciplined at following the model and respecting the system than they are. And how you do that and why you do that is because you value your business more than yourself, or more really than anything. Nobody is bigger than the business. Now, I'm not talking about on a human level, but I'm talking about on a business level. Nobody's bigger than the business. You are not bigger than the business. The business is bigger than you. So when that person comes with that commission check, you don't get to cherry pick that if you're a business owner. You get to cherry pick that if you're a sales agent, but then you're deciding who you are, and you're limiting your life, I think, based on that decision. And so anyway, I've said enough about that topic, but that's genuinely, guys, like, the reason I've been successful is I've had the best people working with me, they're still working with me. And people are like, why would they work for anybody? Because they knew that I would give them the best and get out of their way they knew that the business was bigger and better and more valuable than they could do on their own or that I could do on my own. So see, is once you build a business, like why would somebody come work for you if they're better than you at everything? If you have a business that's better at it than both of you are. Does that make sense? And so that's where it's so important to think like, going back to those first strategies, to think like a business owner, to behave and do and invest like a business owner, and then to respect, build out the systems and models, and then to respect those at all times, because then you can hold people to that, and you can build something bigger than yourself, and that you're attracting people to and drawing them to. So, so that's the people. The reason the people side of things helped me grow as a business so much bigger is, one, they were world class, and so they would always blow up, what my business was doing to the next level. But then not only that, the number one difficulty that business owners everywhere face is people. It's hiring great talent, recruiting great talent, training great talent, motivating them, managing them. And so every business owner out there is dealing with the same problems and the same issues. And most people are not in a business that's training them to know how to do that, to do that at a high level. Keller Williams is doing that. They've built the hiring, training systems and models. So there's like McDonald's. McDonald's is a phenomenal business, right? Their models and systems, I'm not saying their food's phenomenal. I'm saying their models and systems are phenomenal. And you can go to McDonald's in China or France, and I've done it, or Africa or the US, and you're going to get the same thing and the same type. I mean, they have mastered the art of predictability, duplicating things, systems and models, and hiring. They're the best. Like, guys, working for McDonald's as an executive is like a killer job. And so Seth Campbell was one of the executives for McDonald's in charge of an entire region in the United States. And he had some of the best training for hiring and motivating and recruiting. When he came to Keller Williams, he said what they had blew what McDonald's had out of the water. And Seth has built his business the same way on recruit, select, train, and motivate. So what was interesting to me is that I was able to network with business owners because I was a business owner and I was thinking like a business owner and acting like a business owner. Business owners wanted to network with me, and they wanted to learn from me. And so I started consulting with them and helping them to hire and train and create models and systems for hiring and training people. And I started even interviewing. And when those business owners that I started helping were builders. And so this is what happened. So, one business owner that I was networking with said, hey, you're really good at hiring. Can you help me hire my next general manager? Well, yeah, sure. So I went and helped him hire his next general manager. I conducted the interview. I offered the guy the job. And guess what? Once he became the general manager of the builder, who do you think he wanted to list all their homes with? Me, right? And so then he was like, hey, listen, you did a great job hiring me. I never saw such a great hiring process before. It wasn't Jim Lee's hiring process. It was Keller Williams' hiring process. I just followed the model. He said it was amazing. It blew me out of the water. It was incredible. Can you help me hire my VP? And I was like, sure, I can help you hire, your VP. So I did the same thing. Well, then what happened after a couple of years, and this is what happens in business, the general manager, went and started up his own building business, and the VP went and started up his own building business, and the original owner still was left. So I was getting listings from all three of those guys. So I didn't go out and plan this. I'm not that smart, but I just followed the Keller Williams models and then started to try to add value to my database. And the way I was able to add value, because I'd invested in becoming a business executive, was to be able to add value to other business executives, and then they were in positions to send me lots of referrals. So anyway, that is just, if you just follow the strategies and the models, it's not your own smarts or whatever that are going to get you there. It's going through the steps. And so that's kind of what I found. Is I look back, and people are like, dude, you're such a genius. And I'm like, no. That all fell in my lap because I just was doing what Keller Williams said to do, which was invest in myself as a business person. So number 5, and this is going to sound kind of interesting, but you cheat your way to the top. What I mean by that is that there's always a cheat code. I'm not really saying cheat. There's always a cheat code. There's always a pattern. How many of you guys have ever played GoldenEye? No? Okay, so that dates me. So GoldenEye was this game that we used to play in college, and it was James Bond, like License to Kill. Yeah, 007. And you could, once you killed somebody, there was a whole pattern in which they would spawn, and you could learn the pattern in which they would spawn. And then you could run to where they were going to spawn and shoot them before they were even spawning. You could win the game that way. So that's what I mean by cheat your way to the top. Find out the pattern. And guys, hold on. I'm sorry. I need to take a break. I know this sounds weird, but like I have I don't know. I'm not breathing well. So hold on. Give me a second. I need to just. I have no idea. I got cough. That's so weird. Like I thought I was about to faint. Say what? Yeah, I think I'm good. It's passing. Just need to breathe. Okay, so what are the cheat codes in real estate? So this is about basically finding an advantage and using it. So like Super Mario Brothers, you know, they had the like star that you got that made you invincible. Again, I'm dating myself. But you know, when the star came, like you got it because you could run through your enemies. So there's always like a cheat code, an advantage, a pattern that you could leverage once you figure it out. So what are the cheat codes in real estate? Well, guys, if you could tell the future and you had the ability to prophesy and know what was going to happen before it happened, like would that be a pretty valuable advantage that you would want to leverage? And would I not be the dumbest person in the world, like if I could tell the future and I just decide not to use that? Well, that's what scripts are. Like you know what they're going to tell you. You know what the objection's going to be. You know, like it's written in stone. And you know the future. So just leverage your fortune telling and practice the script and be ready to respond to it. So we would do script practice every single day before we did our lead generation. We would do 10 to 15 minutes of script practice just to kind of get things rolling, get things, you know, get the oil flowing, and then just to master that art of script practice because it's fortune telling. I mean, if you could get a seller to tell you exactly what you need to do for them to want to hire you, would you want to do that? You would. Yeah, that's pre-qual. That's the pre-qual conversation. So I never, ever, 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 ever went on a listing appointment without doing an in-depth pre-qualifying conversation. I hired a listing agent once, and I practiced what I preached. Once I hired him, I stopped taking any listings. And you know, my listing like conversion rate was stupid, and so his was pretty high for a brand new agent because he was following my model and following my systems. And so he came in and he was like 9 out of 10 listings he would go on and get. That's very good for a brand new agent. And over time, it started to drop, and it got to the point where he would get 1 out of every 2 listings. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And this is a guy that, so he had so much raw ability, but he needed to be trained so much. So when the way I would do it is I would say, hey, listen, you're going to come with me on 12 listing appointments. You're going to watch me do them. And then you're going to do the next 12 while I'm there watching you do it. And until you get 12, like, I'm not going to let you go take your run. So I would go on a listing appointment with him. And the first one I went with him that was his turn to do, he was walking through the house or just sitting at the table with a customer, and while they were, I'm not even going to do it because I'm a terrible singer. I have no voice. He would just start singing, like just quietly singing while they were talking, or while he was walking through the house. And after the thing, I was like, did you realize, like, you were singing, like, the whole time? And he's like, oh, no, I do that when I'm nervous. Was I really doing that? I was like, yes, you cannot do that. Like, you have got to stop that. I was so embarrassed. And it took him several times. And finally, I was like, all right, you weren't singing anymore. So we're going to reset. None of those listings counted. You got to do 12 more where you don't sing. But this guy was getting 9 out of 10 listings after that, after being somebody who would sing on his listing appointments. And then he started dropping down to 1 and 2. And I'm like, did you start singing again? You know, and so I went on the listing appointments with him. I'm like, man, he's doing everything right. Everything right. Like, he's not singing. He's going through the whole process with the model. But I kept going with him. Like, he's doing it all right. But it's funny, like, they're more resistant than they ought to be. So I'm like, hey, what was the pre-qual conversation like with that person? He's like, oh, I didn't have a chance to do it that one. I was like, what was the pre-qual conversation with? Like, oh, you know what? They called, and I knew it was just going to be like they wanted me to come, so I just ran out to the house to list it. I'm like, Ryan, you cannot do that. You never take a listing call, even if you can get to come list me, respond to a text message, and run out to their house the next day or that day or whatever. You always do the pre-qual. You set the listing appointment for 2 or 3 days out because you got to study and prepare for that listing. He's like, oh man, you're right. And so the pre-qual script is basically running them through, and Keller Williams has them. I'm not going to go through that, but Keller Williams has them. It's the pre-qual script. And by the end of it, you're asking them all these questions, like, you know, where are you moving to? Why are you calling me today? You know, what's your purpose for selling and moving today? You know, what are you hoping to get out of the house? You know, if you had to put a price on it right now, what would that be? You keep digging. I want to know how unrealistic our pricing expectations are before I even go there. I want to know if we're going to have a war or not when it comes to price, right? And are you interviewing other agents? Who are you interviewing? So I would ask all those questions. You know, what are you looking for in an agent? How are you going to decide after you interviewed me and those 3 other? How are you going to decide? You know, what's the basis for your decision? And so we just ask all these questions. And you start with the easy ones. Tell me about your house. You know, when did you guys buy it? You know, where are you moving? You know, what have you done to the house? That's all the easy stuff. So like stuff that of course they're going to answer. But once somebody starts answering your questions, then you ask a little bit harder one, a little bit harder one, a little bit harder one, and you ask the hardest one, right? But now they're just in a rhythm of answering your questions and not responding or not objecting. So they're just going to answer some really tough questions for you, and they're going to arm your gun with all the bullets that you're going to need to win that listing, because they're going to tell you exactly why they're selling, what they need to hear, what bad experiences they've had before, their friends have had before in real estate that they want to avoid, why they want their realtor to do an open house every single weekend, right? Why so no, we're not going there. But don't you want to know those things before you go on the listing, that that's their expectation? Or before you take the listing, and then 5 weeks into it, they're firing you, and you're finding out because they thought that you were going to do an open house every week, and that's where they sell a house. So anyway, like those are the things that you've got. The pre-qual nailed it, and if you don't do that, you're going in blind. And I never go into a war blind, because until like they sign that, you're in a battle against every other realtor out there and every other opportunity out there to get them to believe that you are the one to do it. You can't go into war blind. So a couple other things that I want to leave you guys with before we close is, I'm going to say another cheat code. So another cheat code is business that's repeatable. So I started doing a lot of life as a financial advisor, and I was like, man, you have such a great business, because once you get a client, like they're there on your balance sheet and on your books and on your P&L every year. Me, I get a client and they're in and out, you know, and it might be 5 years before they're back on my P&L. And so I started to try to think, like, how can I make real estate more like that type of business? And so we already talked about database and how database correctly managed and leverage can do that. We talked about how GeoFund can do that as well. But investors and builders can do that for you as well. So if you get an investor who's selling 5 homes a year, then you just locked up 5 listings a year. You know, and then if you do a great job for them, I guarantee you he knows an investor that's doing 10 listings a year. And then I guarantee you she knows an investor that's doing 15 listings a year. And before you know it, you're going to be working with investors and builders that you've done a great job for, and he, she, whatever, has referred you to the other person that's doing it as well. And so you're building your book of business, and you're generating 100 sales a year, and you've got 5 clients, 6 clients, 7 clients. So when that started to happen for me, man, when I got my first investor, and he was doing 7 homes a year, I mean, that was such a win. So I was like, whoa, that's like 7 listing presentations I don't have to go on. You know, that's awesome. That's 7 pre-qual scripts I don't have to do again. So that felt so good, and then just kind of leveraging that up, that's like win beneath your sails. So strategy number 6 for me was remember who you are. Gary Keller says this, and I love this, that you are a spiritual being having a material experience. So the mistake that we make, and that I made, is you sacrifice the spiritual, you sacrifice the relational, you sacrifice the emotional side of yourself in pursuit of the material experience. And instead, the correct approach is to leverage the material experience to grow yourself spiritually, to grow yourself emotionally, to grow yourself relationally. And that's where I got it wrong when I was in that worker mindset instead of that be-do-have mindset. So I think the be-do-have mindset starts with who are you fundamentally? Because fundamentally, you're not a business owner. I mean, that's what you're choosing to do, but fundamentally, you're a spiritual being, right? And so you've got to have that locked in and dialed in before you even have the first strategy I told you, like to run it like a business. And so for me, that was identifying and holding myself accountable. Calvin talks about accountability and leadership. Well, what about accountability to being a human being that's growing like spiritually, emotionally, relationally? So that's the first accountability that you want to get in your life. It's the first accountability that I didn't have. And it's why, if I look back to both times that I almost lost my marriage, because both times I started sacrificing on the accountability of being and investing in the material experiences that were growing me spiritually, emotionally, and relationally. And so for me, I'm not telling you what they are for you because they're different for different people. But for me, it's morning Bible reading and journaling. It's family dinners. It's family play. And it's taking a Sabbath day where I don't work and my clients know that I'm not working. And that's agreed on upfront, okay? And so I'm not going to go in anymore, but those things are life-giving. They will protect your relationships. They will make you a better business owner. They will make you a better manager and employer. They will make you a better friend and human being and dad, mom, husband, wife. Your clients will get you at your highest, most productive, most energetic. And so I would absolutely help people. And by the way, that was in my schedule, and my clients were bought into that after they signed. I would say, hey, let's go ahead and how we're going to work together. And I just kind of map out with them how we work, what the next steps in the process are, and just say, hey, just wanted to share my schedule with you. So weekdays, I'm available. So basically from 11 to 5. From 9 to 11, I'm going to be lead generating for your house and for prospects and whatnot for your house. From 11 to 5, I'm available for you. From 5 to 8, I'm with my family. We're doing dinner. And then from 8 to 10, I'm available again to you. And then Sundays, I don't work. That's my day off. When I was doing listings and open houses, it wasn't Sundays. I was Friday. And I messed around with that a little bit. Sometimes it was Tuesday. Tuesday became probably my best day because Mondays there were offers that were coming in from the weekend. So Tuesdays or Wednesdays is where I ended up doing my best Sabbath day. And I think the final, it was Wednesdays ended up being my favorite. Just FYI. But I would let them know that Wednesdays was my Sabbath day, and that I wouldn't necessarily use the term Sabbath, but that was my day off. And I wasn't available, during that day. But I would say, hey, that's in the notes in your listing. Everybody knows that. We don't we don't want your property shown on Wednesday anyway. We want it shown on the weekend because we want them back to back with other showings. We don't want to trickle in showings. I prefer to even do time blocks. So I'll do time blocks on my listings back in the day where I wouldn't allow them to be shown during weekday hours because I wanted to constrain when buyers were going to it. And I wanted to give my clients a break as well. I was like, you don't want to always when are your days off? So anyway, I would set that up front with people, and then they would just know that and then buy into that and say okay. And I would let them know. I would say listen, there's nothing in real estate that's an emergency. If your house is burning down, sure, that's an emergency. But outside of that, they know when they can show the property. We never respond to offers within 24 hours. We always require 48 hours long time. Why? Because I want to give time for other offers to come in. I want to give time for my clients to talk about it and connect about it, to pray about it, to whatever they do to make a good decision, and not to react, because we never make great decisions when we react. So you don't sign a big business contract, a big business agreement, with a gut reaction. You think about it. You sleep on it. You pray about it. You ask for counsel. And why should your clients be motivated by somebody else, some other buyer's urgency, some other buyer's, what is pressure? They're putting pressure on you and your seller because they're afraid. They're afraid of losing the listing. That's what it's come down to. Do not let somebody else's emergency ruin your quality of life or your decision making. You don't let them do that to your clients. So that's why I protect my clients from those rash, emergency, high pressure decisions. I was like, that buyer is going to want your house just as bad tomorrow as they do today. In fact, they're going going to want it. They're going to want it fast. The longer they simmer on this, the longer they wait on this, the more they're going to want it and the more negotiable they're going to be. So, but what that does is for your client's best interest, but guess what? It also protects you and your family and allows you to have boundaries. And that's also in their best interest because then you're better equipped to service them the day after you've taken a day off. So, remember who you are. Strategy number 6. And then I would say remember your purpose. So a person I look up to the most had a very clear purpose. People said about him that he didn't come to be served but to serve. And in fact, he felt very strongly that the purpose of our lives is to actually lay down our lives for others. And so in business, I asked myself, how do I think of this purpose? As how do I lay my life down for others? Like, if that's what he thinks like my purpose ought to be, what does that look like in business? And so for me, that was adding value to others. So how do I add value to others? So I didn't get those builders and investor listings because I was trying to get those builders to work with me. I just was being a friend to a business owner who needed hiring help, and I could add value to him that way. And then before I knew it, I had all his listings, and then before I knew it, I had 3 other builders listings, or 2 other builders listings, so 3 builders total. But that didn't start with me seeking listings. It started with me trying to just add value to someone's life. And so I would ask you guys to remember your purpose, to add value to the lives of others. And so what is your superpower? How do you add value to the lives of others that you work with? How is someone's life bettered by working with you or by being in a relationship with you? And so take some time to answer those questions, and then you can start honing the skill of adding value to people's lives in that way. So for me, as a business executive, because I saw myself as a business executive, because I invested in world-class training, it prepared me to network with business owners, and then it allowed me to add value to them where it really mattered. And that's what opened up all those home opportunities for me, but it began with that. And so it doesn't have to be that. It can be different things. That's what it was for me, of how do you add value to others. Answer that, and then you will create a business built on that. But it will be a business filled with meaning and purpose and significance because you're doing your superpower. The last thing I'd probably say, this, and we got to wrap it up, is I would encourage you guys to cultivate a mild but persistent discontent with yourself. Okay? Not with your circumstances, not with other people, not with the market, not with the interest rates, but cultivate a mild but persistent and loving and gracious but discontent with yourself. Thomas Edison said that restlessness is discontent, and discontent is the first necessity of progress. Show me a thoroughly satisfied man, and I will show you a failure. Dr. Miles Monroe said discontent is the seed of change. You'll never change what you tolerate. You will never become what you could be until you become angry at what you are. So you can call it growth. You can call it progress. You can call it self-actualization. You can call it evolution. I call it sanctification. But the truth is that we're on a journey to become more than what we are right now. And we can embrace that journey, or we can pretend it doesn't exist, but it's still there. And we're on that journey. And we're either becoming more than what we are, or we're regressing. And so I have been blown away by studying more about neuroplasticity of the brain and whatnot, because I was taught that your personality and who you are is immutable, and it's locked. It is not immutable, and it is not locked. I have been amazed at the things that I've been able to change about myself, and I've been amazed at the things my friends have been able to change about themselves. And so mindfulness has been one of the biggest things that I have been taught and I've learned. One of the books that taught me that, and one of the books that helped me the most change myself was actually reading Anatomy of the Soul, when one of the times that I thought my marriage was over and I was kicked out of my home. Right? So I read Anatomy of the Soul, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the roadmap to like changing who I am and changing who I've been for like however many years that I thought was never going to change. And it was incredible. And so mindfulness was just one of the things that I drew from that. But pay attention to what you're paying attention to. Pay attention to what you're paying attention to. What's the thing that's occupying your attention? What's the thing you're telling yourself right now? What are the words that you're using for yourself? The most important conversation you're ever going to have is a conversation that you have with yourself. And the problem with that conversation is most of the time it goes unnoticed. So you have to train yourself to be mindful to what that conversation is and to ask you, that true? Not does it sound true, but is it truth with a capital T? Is it getting you where you want to go on that journey of embracing becoming someone better than what you are today? And if it's not, get rid of that conversation and get rid of those words. So what is the story that you tell yourself? The whole anatomy of the soul, the neuroplasticity of the brain, like, just blew my mind that you really can rewire your brain. You can absolutely change your personality. One of the guys that I saw this do, if you looked at anybody that I went to college with and you said he's not going to be successful, it was him, because he was so negative and so depressed and so downcast, and he had such negativity, and his conversation that he had with himself was awful, and so he became aware of that, mindfulness, and so then he came up with the system models, right? And the system in the model was just that he had this dinger that every few, 15 seconds would go off, and he started to just document every 15 seconds, what he was telling himself. And he did that for 2 weeks, I think it was. And then, after knowing what he said for 2 weeks, he then spent about a week writing down what truth was, what was a capital T, and how to overcome those things that he was telling himself. And in a matter of 6 weeks after that, with that thing going off every 15 seconds, it might have been every minute. It was something really fast. I'll have to ask him. But he followed this book and followed this model, and I'll have to ask him what it was and get you the exact timing. But in 6 weeks, he completely changed his personality. He stopped being the negative, depressed. It was amazing. And he went from being incredibly downcast to actually creating and writing and making his own film and getting it out. It blew me away. And he's now incredibly successful. And in life, not just in business, but in life. And he just rewrote his brain in 6 weeks. And so I just encourage you guys, because there are things that are holding you back. There are things that are preventing you from being everything that you could be as a husband, as a wife, as a friend, as a dad, mom, and as a business owner, and as a realtor. And so what are those things? What are your superpowers? Know those and hone in on those. But also, what are things that are holding you back? And then come up with a system and a plan to overcome that, to rewrite that. Stop being that way. Stop telling yourself that story. Tell yourself a different story, or whatever it might be. I don't have time to get into the ways to do that, but there are ways to do that. Read the book, Google it, look it up. But neuroplasticity of the brain, there's so much good there. What I want to leave you with is this. At the speed of your growth as a human being and as a business owner is going to be determined by the speed of your implementation. So you cannot implement everything that we talked about today. There's no way. So if you had to pick one thing that you're yeah, I could do that. And it might be the one thing where you spend some time writing down the conversations you're having with yourself. It might be the one thing where you're spending 2 hours, on a bluff, going on a hike, and you're thinking about what's my superpower? How do I want to add value to others? It might be that you want to implement geofarming. I don't know what it is, but it might be that you realize you need to go hire an attorney and incorporate your business. Or it might be that you need to create a separate bank account and have one for your business and have one for yourself and pay yourself a salary like I did. What's the one thing? We're past our time. I want it to be respectful to those that need to leave. I want to let you leave, but if you know what that one thing is, I'd love to hear what it is. I'd love for you to stay behind and tell me. I'm a big fan of soccer. I'm a big fan of Lionel Messi. He just won, Messi, Argentina. So, huge fan. Copa, World Cup Copa, love it. But Johan Cruyff was just a brilliant mind when it came to soccer. And Pep Guardiola is a brilliant coach that studied under Pep Guardiola is a coach of Man City, the most successful club team right now in the world. And Pep Guardiola, and it's amazing, when you watch soccer managers and soccer coaches, they're doing what we do. It's human psychology, negotiations, management. And strategy, war. And so I love kind of listening to them and watching what they say. But Pep said about Johan Cruyff that Cruyff never moved to plan B. He just made plan A stronger. So don't plan for failure. Don't get distracted with the plan B. Pick the plan A that is the right plan A and commit to it. you're going to succeed in life, how you're going to succeed in business. You don't need a plan. You just need a plan A that you're committed to, that you have accountability to, and that you strengthen when it becomes challenged. So anyway, that's the end. You guys are free to go, those who need to go. I need somebody to help me turn off this mic, and then I want to hear your one things. So thank you all.